New York City has some of the most severe public health measures in the nation under Fauciism, requiring proof of vaccination before residents can do pretty much anything. The measures have taken a toll on the Big Apple, leaving many longtime residents wondering when, if ever, the city that never sleeps is going to wake up. One of those residents is TV host, author, and my good friend, Jedediah Bila. She joins me now. Jedediah, good to see you.
Good to see you, Buck, as always.
Just talking about how we've been buddies now for 10 years, seen a lot change in the world of conservative media and just the world in general. Never thought I'd be sitting here at the end of our first decade of friendship and asking you about how you think New York exits the pandemic, but of course, here we are. I do feel like there's a mass psychosis that we actually have to overcome now, and our public policy is starting to represent what feels like a widespread anxiety disorder instead of the science. I mean, what do you see going on in New York?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some politicians, some media figures, some people who have a vested interest politically, some financially in maintaining this panic in society, regardless of vaccination rates, regardless of herd immunity, regardless of natural immunity out there. It just doesn't seem to matter. And it's scary. You know, you and I both love New York City. We've spent a good portion of our lives there. I spent most of my adult life in the city, and so many aspects of the city are deteriorating. It's not just the mandates, which really, when you walk around Manhattan now, it reads like the worst chapter of a dystopian novel that you wished had never come to life, and now here it is. But it's also the crime. I mean, it's just not safe anymore. And I keep, tweeting about this and pointing out specific neighborhoods, because these are neighborhoods that, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I would walk around by myself at night, wander the city, and now I would never do that. It feels tangibly unsafe to me. And I think that has a lot to do with what happened this past year with the lockdown. So many businesses fled. You saw the increases in crime, and you also see that the police force in the city just doesn't feel supported. And when you have a police force that doesn't feel that they're supported when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to, the mayor of that city, who now, thinks he's going to run for governor, God help everyone. It just doesn't work. And you're seeing all those pieces of the puzzle, which is why a lot of people have fled to states like Florida, to states like Texas, to states like Tennessee. I myself am leaving because, I have a kid now, and I look at what's happened to the city, and I just can't justify raising a child in a place that is so stifling and so unsafe in so many ways.
What do you think it would take in the case of New York and people watching this, a lot of them live in cities all across the country, and some of them, of course, don't live in cities at all. But what would it take, you think, for the Democrats who have gone along with so much of this to finally feel like enough is enough? I think that's been the aspect of this in New York specifically, as somebody who's living here alongside, everyone else who's been through the craziness that you and I have seen. I think it's been surprising me, Jedediah, how much the Democrats, because it really is now a partisan issue, the Democrats are willing to put up with when it comes to constantly changing mask and vaccine and lockdown and social distancing measures and restrictions and capacity limits and all this stuff, and now maybe boosters in the future. Do you think that some of them are just happy to go on like this forever? Because I've started to worry.
I think they need someone to blame. I think when you look at the president's press conference and he's now blaming the unvaccinated, he can't blame himself. So some of these crippling policies in these cities have really sunk the cities. And it's not just New York. We can talk about New York City because, you and I have a history there in terms of, we spent a large part of our lives there. But you look at California, it's really no different. I mean, what's going on there? And they need someone to blame. And there's this refusal, it seems, on their part to say, I was wrong, particularly when it comes to COVID-19. I mean, it's insane, really, what's going on, that you have these massive mandates being instituted for a vaccine that does not prevent someone from getting COVID-19 and does not prevent someone from spreading COVID-19. You also don't have natural immunity accounted for, which so many people in places like New York got COVID, they recovered, and the silver lining for them was that they have this natural immunity. They now can't enter a restaurant, a gym, a bar. It makes absolutely no sense. You could have someone with COVID-19, with symptoms, who was vaccinated sitting in a restaurant, but you can't have someone who's naturally immune who doesn't have symptoms at that time. This is not science. This is absolute madness. And I think these politicians politicians have taken note, though. They have said to themselves, what can we get away with? And they have gotten away with so much when it comes to the lockdowns, when it comes to what they've done to business, when it comes to these mandates. And they're, I think, in a phase now where they're saying, can we go even further? I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what the point's going to be when it backtracks. I really don't. It may take a new administration when it comes to the president. It may take, I don't know. I mean, a Republican getting elected in New York is just not realistic, honestly, with where everyone is. But it also takes people, right? I mean, Buck, we've been looking at protests erupting. Yes, across the country, across the globe. You see some in New York City where people are saying, I am not taking part in these mandates. I would rather, quit my job than be told that I have to put something into my body.